We are here. Oh no. Oh no. Let's see. Holy fucking shit, my friend's been spamming. Jeez Louise. Man, today is definitely gonna be one of those days, isn't it, today? Isn't it? It's gonna be one of those days, oh, yeah. Gonna be one of those days. We gotta call a bunch of little bullshit. Cause they boy depraved as fuck. And Zukov, you can kind of leave me alone right now. Stop stiffing me. Stop it. Here, I'll give you a treat if you leave me alone. Like, come on, bro. There you go. Little Zukov. Little Zukov, man. It's a little nut. A nut, I dare say. Yeah, man. Here, pull some shit up. I'll write that in a second. We'll finish it up.
I don't think I've ever been to a formal dinner that was
a little hot. I was trying to eat these burritos, but they're too hot. So I'm gonna have to sit to the side for a second.
Use a fork to eat your salad, and then that special chilled fork is taken away, and the fork is brought back for your meal. I don't think I've ever had that before.
I've only had that one time. And it was at a steakhouse.
That's kind of cool.
And Icelandic one, actually. They were really nice and fancy. Like, every time they brought a new dish out, they would give you a new set of dishes every time. Take away your old ones. So there was always, like, a nice, clean table for you to be eating at. It was legit. So, formal dining can be pretty fun. Because it's just like, ooh, get waited on.
Very specific number. I don't know, hopped on one of these watches and leave people before the schism. Cool, well, welcome back. Hello, love it. The schism, dude. I love that.
That's a good bowl right there.
Oh, yeah. That's true. We did do a 5-hour long night right here. Yeah, you should definitely check out Deep Fat Friend. It's been a while. You're an old fan of DP, you ain't checked in on us for a while. Definitely give Deep Fat Friend a look. You might end up liking it. But if you don't, we're solo streamers too. You can come hang out here anytime you want. Would you rather only be able to eat flavorless gruel for the rest of your life, or only be able to listen to Corey for the rest of your life?
Flavorless gruel.
I'm telling you, like, as much as I love food, I think the flavorless gruel would probably, like, help me get healthy. Yeah. Whereas I think listening to Corey Feldman's music exclusively for the rest of my life would help me get healthy.
That'd be horrible. But I think having gruel for the rest of your life is actually a better outcome.
The weird matrix paste.
Matrix paste, delicious.
So that I can listen to normal food. Yeah, I get the feeling.
See if it's cooled down a little bit.
Mental damage that would be done by having to listen to Corey Feldman every day. It would be way outstripping, kind of like sad.
Have it cool down? Yay!
We ate flavor at school last night, basically.
Kinda. I mean, it's got flavor. It's just not.
Just like this chimichanga. Flavor.
We'll take the noodle, please. Yeah. I think most people would probably take the noodle.
Chimichangas. Just microwavable ones, the El Monterey ones.
Music has just disappeared from your life, even though food is more important, like to your survival. I think people probably prioritize their music and their food. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I know I do.
I'm the opposite.
That was a burp. Could live with fascist bleeds. D agrees. Oh my god. Zukov is coming over here like, what was that?
You're gonna go in?
He's over here and he's all looking like, what was that?
Yeah.
I too like El Monterey burritos. I mean, there's nothing like to admit. It's not like you're admitting to like some cocaine addiction. You know what I mean? I mean, they're just El Monterey chimichanga burritos, you know? Get some of that La Victoria taco sauce on it, like that mild taco sauce, and put it on top of it, like in the bottle. Because that's what I got on there. Oh my god. Perfect combo. It is a legit good combo.
It's not an easy. I would definitely probably like regret it. Hey, go on. Go. Go lay down. Sit here and whine.
Yeah, Zukov, go lay down.
Little magically repel seasoning in.
So, did you see Vosh's new video they uploaded today?
Pour a whole fucking pound of salt in it.
What's that curiosity?
It just gets absorbed.
Where he was literally wrong for like 10 minutes straight. It was like some 40 fucking minute video about the Gravel Institute out of all things, and saying this is not a good take, my guy. No, I haven't. Well, do so on your own accord, I guess. Like the thumbnails, yikes, ... and him looking at the Gravel Institute thumbnail, like, while literally being fucking wrong, like overtly wrong, like for 10 minutes straight. It's retardedly insane. Like, he was saying that, like about Azov, who was openly aligned with the fucking Nazis during World War II, and the Ukraine treating them as a hero, and literally it's like, oh, they don't treat Azov as a hero, even though they literally have fucking statues of him everywhere.
There he was saying that Prager used video on the Ukraine crisis is pretty good.
Yeah, Gravel. Gravel Institute? Did they just say gravel?
Pretty good. Let's see what problems there are. And I watched about 8 minutes of a 41-minute video, and he was utterly, unabashedly.
I guess Paul saw this too.
4 times in that 8 minutes.
Yeah, really, he was.
That there is no proxy war in Ukraine. That you cannot have a proxy war if you don't have troops on the ground.
And saying that, by the way, is beyond fucking bullshit. Like, Ukraine is openly a fucking proxy war between Russia and NATO. It's not like a proxy war between fucking, like fucking Al-Qaeda.
That's a proxy war.
It's like, oh yeah, so let's have a proxy war with the Taliban here, my guy. This is not a proxy war, because it's not like guerrilla warfare like Taliban or something, my dude. Where's the actual troops on the ground, my guy?
And instead of going like, oh, I was wrong, recontextualizes what he meant by proxy war. And is still wrong. What else do you go on to?
Also, what's even more exceptionally disgusting is the fact that, like, literally all of his sycophants who are guaranteed are 15 to 16 years old are just all like, I'm from Poland, I'm from Estonia, I'm from here, I'm from there, and Vosh is just absolutely correct, and literally any other leftist American take is disgusting to me. And it's just like, what is this weird fucking bullshit? Like all these random galvanized, like, simp motherfuckers who have never been around, you know, around Vosh forever, but out of nowhere just suddenly being propped up and being, like, mass liked. It's like, what?
Ukrainian separatists that allied with the Nazis, who is still a national hero in Ukraine, and the Gravel Institute was covering this. to show the etymology of the Russian. And he was like, well, I'm pretty sure that he's not.
I still say Ukraine, Russia should be considered European problems.
They have statues.
Yeah.
They made him a literal hero of the Republic.
Honestly, it's just specifically more like Russian and Ukrainian problems.
He goes, hot take city.
It's not even like Europe. It shouldn't even inherently be fucking, Europe's issue either, as far as I'm fucking concerned at this point. You have far-right, literal ethnic Ukrainian and ethnic Russian nationalist, racist Nazis trying to literally have like some blood war with each other. Like where you have paramilitaries on either side, the Luhansk and the Donetsk People's Republics, which are just little Nazi states, propped up by Russia. And then you have a bunch of, Nazi paramilitaries like the National Guard's Azov Battalion that are openly fucking far-right Nazis themselves who are like, yeah, let's fucking, fight out against these ethnic Russians. And the ethnic Russians are like, let's fight out against the ethnic Ukrainians. They don't give a fuck. They just want their fucking blood war, and these superpowers are willing to fucking feel it for them. Like, if anything, if there's any, real, false flags with these, ceasefire breaches and shit, it's with these fucking paramilitary groups, because they're the ones who want war. Because they want to fucking do a mass cleansing of either Russian or Ukrainians, depending on what side they're on, and just exterminate a bunch of fucking people. Let them kill each other? Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, let them kill, let them kill each other off. One by one. Let the fucking Nazi paramilitaries literally eat each other alive. That guy's supposed to be like, oh yeah, let me defend, city lethal aid, or lethal aid, which is just another soft way of saying let's just send weapons. And send supplies to special forces to train local far-right paramilitary groups. Like, sending lethal aid is not just sending weapons and javelins and shit, by the way. It's also sending special forces to literally train these fucking far-right Nazi paramilitary groups. There's, there's open videos of the shit where Americans are like, yep, we're training these Ukrainian military groups and shit, and they all have, far-right Nazi symbols and Nazi patches on them and shit. It's like, what? Yeah, let's literally prop up and back, Nazi paramilitaries. Like the Freikorps and the Azov Battalion, and so on. It's like, what? And then you got, the fucking Russian separatists who are all like, yeah, let's try to have, the new Russian state, which includes the Luhansk and Donetsk Republic and Crimea and a few other places in eastern Ukraine, that want to basically do mass extermination of Ukrainians and shit, which is basically the same thing that the Ukrainian separatists want, but just the other way around, just a different ethnic group. And then you got motherfucker liberals like Bosch who are like, oh, let's do something about that Russian question, my guy, which that sticks in my craw and always will. When you got a motherfucker who's basically saying, what are we going to do about the Jewish question, but replacing the ethnic group of Jews with Russians? It's like, well, how in the fuck am I not supposed to look at that and be like, oh, you're totally not, being Nazistic with that, type of thinking? Because he is. He just literally is. That just overtly is Nazistic style fucking thinking of, what are we going to do about ethnic group question? That's Nazistic thinking. That literally is. I don't give a fuck who you are. If you're going to be like, oh, what are we going to do about X ethnic group, and, and pose a question about what we ought to do with them, you're just making Nazi thoughts and doing Nazi thinking at that point. Where it's just like, oh yeah, because it implies and enables the idea of like, oh, we ought to do something about, the question of this ethnic people because they seem to be undesirable and not good for the overall, general state of affairs of stability in the region. So we ought to do something about this group of people because obviously they're not doing the general bare well-being of society. We ought to do something about this ethnic group. Let's talk about the Russian government. No, how, is he really? When he's talking about Russia, he's not specifically mentioning the Russian state. He's just talking about Russia and Russians in general. Like, he has a legit fucking bloodthirsty warmongering mentality about Russia. And Russians in general. He's legit has overt, it's just pure, pro-war mentality about Russians. Especially when his latest video is overtly wrong for like 10 fucking minutes straight. Just overtly lying about this shit. And went on to, exacerbate and try to go to war, try to exacerbate and push a war that shouldn't be fucking happening in the first place, but yet is, part of exacerbating this, especially amongst the left, where I thought, being left is being hardcore anti-war and anti-imperialist across the fucking board. But I guess, America's fucking imperialistic plays are okay now just because, Russia's just that much worse now all of a sudden. It's fucking ridiculous and it's stupid. It's hyper-tribalistic fucking mentality, especially on his fucking part. It's like, yeah, is Russia government good? No. They oppress their fucking people, and their people have to suffer from this bullshit too. And then you got these far-right influencers in their fucking government just as much as the Ukrainian one, because you got philosophers who integrate, like, some of their fucking books, like Alexander Dugin, or are literal fascists. And then you got the Azov Battalion, who's in the Ukrainian National Guard, and far-right Nazistic paramilitaries there. It's just a fucking, like, far-right, like, neo-Naziistic little geopolitical chess game for those motherfuckers. Where it's like, oh, hey, like, how do we, exploit and fuck over, all these type of people for our personal aggrandizement and gains? Whether it's like, for national supremacy and ethnic supremacy in the region, or resources, or whatever the fuck it is. Regardless, it's bullshit. Because some random Russian or some random Ukrainian that lives in these regions who probably just wants to tend to their little potato farm or whatever the fuck has to, worry about having like an MI-17, firing rockets down on their fucking house or some shit. On either side at that fucking rate. Worry about having to maybe, try to get evacuated. In fact, a lot of them already have at this point. Like, no one ever seems to think about, the average people in this type of shit. She's Russian and who cares they're white. You don't actually think that, do you? Like, white is an arbitrary fucking statement overall anyway. Like, you could be racist regardless of who it fucking is. Or who you are.
You gotta have a team. You gotta have a hot team. You gotta get the press as a and that leads to people who are well respected. I really don't know much about it.
Better believe only white people could be racist. I doubt that. Ignore should start a far-left militia, then get incorporated into the National Guard of Oregon. That's not how it works. And I heard Russians hate America, so we should hate them for hating us, and end the cycle of hate and hate until we launch the nukes out of hate, and then it'll do the same thing. Yeah, true.
In fact, from what I've heard, Ukraine has had a miraculous recovery. Let me go look at
oh, and it's a no, it hasn't.
Other side, side by side, and you line up exactly. It's like, okay, all right, I guess. That's interesting.
Interesting. It's like, yeah, maybe you're wrong.
He tries to contextualize it again. It's like, well, because of the Russian.
That was another thing that he was overtly wrong for like the first 10 minutes straight of that type of video. Where it's like, oh, Ukraine's economy is actually doing a little better. It's like, not really. I mean, it's like, mainly because they've basically been used as a fucking pawn for all these other superpowers. It's just fucking, it's just so stupid. It's just gonna continue to be that type of chess piece.
41-minute video, and your comment section is filled with people going, "Oh my God, thank you for this blog.
Thank you for being wrong. I want my biases to be confirmed because I just hate Russia and I'm a European, so thank you." It's like so fucking ridiculous. And pretty much literally anyone who tries to be like, hey, maybe being like warmongery about this bad, Despite Russia also being bad, it's like, nah, you're saying Russia good, thus, you know, tanking America bad and lefty now. It's like they have no actual seriousness or real, like, merit of, you know, conversation about this type of shit. It's like, I'm definitely not, like, some expert whatsoever in this type of shit, but neither are any of these other fucking people. But at least I'm not gonna just, like, use that as an excuse to just make literal fucking, you know, kind of like, talking points and shit when it comes to, you know, foreign affairs, especially when it comes to American interests. Not criticize America. Well, I mean, not just with neocons, but also with just a lot of other factors about America. Like neocons, Democrats, the general state, the corporatization, its imperialism. Like, there's plenty of things about America to criticize about. At the same time, plenty to, you know, compliment, too. Especially when it comes to things like music, you know, entertainment, food. Like, there's different factors, you know, that are good. Yeah, that comes out of it. But at the same time, especially with how the state is, plenty to criticize. In fact, hardly anything to compliment. Okay. Go to Ukraine and start sending English militia, then get incorporated in Ukraine National Guard to combat the Nazis.
And not even fundamentally understand what a proxy war is. You're talking about a proxy war, and you start your 41 million.
I think that's even harder.
Analysis of that proxy war by saying it's not a proxy war.
It's so profound about America/West is bad. We already know that.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, unfortunately, American lefties, I guess, don't know that because there's a very strong American-centric way of thinking. And honestly, I think people like Vosh are a major example of this. Because honestly, because when you have so many different lefties that don't necessarily see the legit outcomes of that on a global scale, or at least are just willing to overlook it to when it, you know, benefits them more so because they don't like another superpower or just another aspect about the, you know, globe of it works, like of Russia and their imperialism, then it's like, suddenly it's just like the blinders go on. And then when you bring it up, be like, hey, why your blinders on? It's like, hey, we're not talking about that right now. It's like, I mean, it plays a role in this. Like, I mean, you can't just, like, not talk about it. So, and a lot of these, you know, type of lefties do. And will say, like, oh, you're just, you know, being America bad and that's it. And literally nothing else. And it's like, what? Like, you can say imperialism bad, whether it's America, Russian, or otherwise. I mean, it's like, what? It's all just vastly not what it relates to the issue. And then it comes to the whole, like, Russian-Ukrainian issue, America's imperialism does play a role in the context of that. I mean, a lot of America's corporate interests, especially when it comes to, like, nuclear tech also is in Ukraine, too, on top of their military proxy war funding of a lot of these far-right paramilitaries. Like, I mean, when they try to be like, oh, we're not talking about that, that's not, you know, to this issue, I mean, it is. Because it does play a role of how these issues are exacerbated, especially on geopolitical levels, because when you have superpowers, they're going to be in conflict and combating with each other and these other smaller states, whether it's Ukraine, the Middle East, or otherwise.
If you think that knowledge prepares you to speak with authority, especially like a bachelor's degree prepares you to speak with authority on kind of anything, you're wrong. You kind of
yeah, you'd be wrong.
Honestly, like 75% time management, understanding how the mind works,
Yeah, pretty much. Mostly time management, financial management bullshit. Not even really the classes themselves.
Most people that have your level of degree don't. But to some people, it's proof that they have a good generalist knowledge of the world. Watch is a perfect example of working your way backward from the conclusion. You come to your conclusion first, and then you work your way backward through the facts so that you can contextualize those facts to make it seem like it fits your take. That's 100% what he does. And if you want to see that, go watch the video on his channel called the Gravel Institute's Ukraine video is not great. It's up right now. I think this is the latest video. The first one that popped up for today.
It was for me too when I woke up. I woke up today looking at that fucking thing.
That is the exact opposite if you're actually trying to get to the truth of a matter. Trying to get to the truth of a matter, you admit your ignorance on the subject. You go to multiple sources, and you can do this live if you want. You go to multiple sources, look at multiple different takes on this.
I mean, not just that, but also just kind of look into the history of how it led up.
Situation with regards to,
even if it's not the whole fucking picture, at least, you know, delve into it and look into it a little bit.
And then, at the very least, you'll have some kind of an idea on what to base your take. You don't start with the conclusion that the United States is the great savior of Ukraine and that it's our moral duty to step in and stop them from being harassed by Russia, and then work your way back from that conclusion, ignoring facts as you go to fit your narrative.
It's having to recontextualize it when you end up being overtly wrong, especially in the first 10 minutes of the video. It's like, oof. People still just, like, gobble it up. It's like, what the fuck?
When someone calls him out, he will change his statement as if that was what he was saying the whole time. He did that with the proxy war thing. He outright authoritatively states that a proxy war requires that you have your troops on the ground, otherwise it's not a proxy war.
Which is,
and then
I mean, with that logic, it's like, what are these proxy wars that have happened since the fucking 50s?
By just supporting them.
I mean, even before then. I mean, it's just like, what are those? It's like, what?
That's not a piece of nuance that maybe you can allow into the discussion. That is the absolute dictionary definition of a proxy war. You can go watch it. It's in the first 2 minutes of his most recent video.
I mean, especially when it comes to a proxy war, like, I mean, as soon as you actually put troops on the ground, that's when it stops becoming a proxy war. That's because you actually are putting direct, you know, action into the conflict. So
you can't have a proxy war if you don't.
It's, if anything, it's the opposite. Like, that's just not what a proxy war is. Because when you put troops on the ground, then that's just a war. As much as it tries to get recontextualized as like an armed intervention, or, you know, a soft military operation, or however they try to recontextualize it, at that point it's just a full fucking war. When you put troops on the ground and start doing operations.
It's a proxy war. We are arming one group against another group. It's the very definition of a proxy war. Russia's doing
which we've been doing with the USSR since World War II. I mean, it's like ever since World War II and onwards, you know, we've been slowly propping up proxy wars back and forth between the USSR and now Russia to today. Only difference today is now it's not just Russia that, you know, we're having proxy wars with, but also China too. So yeah, go figure. Or for our own selves. In the Civil War, we were literally propping up on one, you know, like one arm of our government was propping up one side of it, and another arm of our government was propping up the other side of the conflict. So sometimes we just do it to our own selves.
Ukrainian economic system. Well, I guess the numbers don't bear that out, but that's what I heard. I don't know how anybody takes that seriously. I don't know how anybody with half a fucking brain in their head even begins to take that seriously. When you just completely and utterly have demonstrated that you misunderstand not only what's going on in the Ukraine, but the...
And also what really grinds my gears about is that, like, they try, you know, at least, you know, people like Russia really try to paint themselves as, like, being very serious, but then in, like, their comment sections and all that shit, they just literally meme it into oblivion and be like, it's just like, how many pro-game removes do you want today? Russia, yes. Or just like, what, you know, stupid little meme comments like that. It's like, yeah, let me just take all these motherfuckers seriously. Because they totally, you know, have a seriousness merit of the discussion of how it is about the overall conflict and the issue. let's make a bunch of memes and have, you know, little quick comments and, you know, to get little boosts of social ratings and ratios. The president, because honestly, they're just bloodthirsty for fucking war. And honestly, it's just like, if they're so gun-ho for it, then they better be the first ones on the fucking front lines if it actually does start off and kick off. Because if that's the case, then they're, you know, I'd say same thing for the same fucking neocons and the politicians that, you know, are gun-ho for it too. They better be like, you know, their fucking lieutenants and commanders, you know, being the frontline generals and shit, you know, joining them in battle.
Gotta go over here.
Put on a flat jacket, motherfucker. If you're so gun-ho for it, then you go do it. Don't sit on your nice little fucking comfy armchair and gloat about, you know, how we're sticking it to Russia while thousands of fucking people die, you know, while you just gloat about it. Fuck you. Go volunteer for the Azov battalion or something. Just the whole put your money where your mouth is, right?
I mean, he has some radical views, but he also plays it safe to make his bread. I think his radical views are there to pull in disaffected political entities, and then I think that
mostly leftists
to be a mainstream political voice. So he will say some things that are undeniably "quote unquote" based.
Based, my guy.
When the chips are down and you have actual geopolitics going on, for some reason he always finds himself snuggling up with the powers that be here in America. For some reason, despite all of this, you know, whatever he calls himself, libertarian socialist or ANCAP, yeah, talks all that nonsense, but then when there's an actual world event on deck, just happens to toe the line of Joe Biden and the American military-industrial complex over and over again. For some reason, he finds himself in opposition to the very forces that cause those things on most of his channel, but when the chips are down, he finds himself on that side. Aesthetically radical is exactly what he is. He likes the aesthetics. He likes the aesthetics of being a political outsider. He likes the aesthetics of calling himself an anarchist. He likes the aesthetics. But when it comes to the actual application of those political... I
mean, Bosch is basically, honestly, just kind of more of a rad lib with lefty aesthetics propped up on it. I mean, it really is, honestly, it's just what he is. He'll say a lot of different things that are pretty left and shit. Even things that I definitely fervently agree with, but at the end of the day, it's like when it comes to his, you know, general, like, worldview, it's more like a more radicalized version of the more social democratic way of our own status quo. So making it more European based, yeah, but not as farther than that. Especially when it comes to fucking foreign affairs.
I hope you guys inevitably speak again, and we can see Paul completely flip the script and treat Bosch like his best friend after crashing behind his back for a year. People act like I treated Bosch, like, during both of my conversations with Bosch, we had massive disagreements.
People really thinking that, like...
I didn't want to get kicked out of his room in the first 15 seconds, so I put on my civility mask. But I brought up every last one of these issues. It was not me just like saying shit I haven't said to him. He knows I believe that he takes radical leftist leaning people and funnels their energy into centrist neoliberal action. I said it straight to his face. load of good that did. What did you expect? That I was gonna like put a dagger in his heart and end his career? Like, what a lot of people already know about him.
I like how a lot of people really think there was going to be like some massive like shift with having a between Paul and Vosh having their talk like a year ago or something.
It would have allowed him to immediately contextualize.
Despite it not exactly just really doing much when it comes to that shit. Oops. Ah, fuck. Stupid YouTube.
The situation for the people who watched it. There would have been no chance that I even got to see.
I mean, it doesn't really do much change, honestly, just because so much of his fucking fan base just literally gobbles up anything and everything they has to fucking say. It doesn't actually, overtly challenge it, aside from, a small element of his chat. And even then, he doesn't actually give him much credence or merit, by just recontextualizing a lot of shit that they challenge. So it's like, what? Because whatever butters his bread.
Because I don't think you know what the fuck you're talking about. It would be fun to see you do that, though. I'm sure it would be, but what would be the point?
Bad faith.
Yep.
Hung up on it all too.
Just seems grossly disingenuous. You genuinely shocked when you saw your background content because you were so fake in your conversation. So fake? How was I fake? What did I say in that conversation?
So fake?
Say to you guys here. That's fake. So, in that conversation, when I talked at length about my advocacy for labor, that was fake. When I talked at length about how I felt that Bosch had radical ideas, but channeled those radical ideas into neoliberal action, it was fake. When I talked to Bosch about how I feel...
How would someone... honestly, I would be definitely the first to be like, you can say whatever you want about Paul, but, like, he is overtly not fake.
That was fake.
He's most certainly genuine with how he fucking feels about shit. In his positions. It's like, how in the actual fuck could
my mom said she was a bitch or something privately, so that means I'm fake. What? The fact that you're acting like you think he's a good actor and then you have cordial friendly conversation and non-stop attacking the super acidic ways would you leave? What a dishonest response. I really honestly don't understand what your issue is. Is your contention that I should have just started screaming at Bosch and calling him a fucking idiot? This shows a profound misunderstanding of how interactions work on the internet. I wanted to have a long conversation with Bosch where I have to cover multiple things. If I would have went in there screaming my head off and calling him a moron.
I mean, does this person actually think that, like, just, going at and screeching at people is the way to go about it?
Like when we were on DP, you wouldn't have gotten guests.
Like, I haven't had, like, many, debates that much, aside from just my own personal life. And even I know that. It's just like, yeah, I mean, honestly, especially so, because, like, yeah, you don't just go up to someone and be like, fuck you, man. You literally don't go anywhere.
Same person, who are you, bro? Who are you? Like, who are you to fucking call me insane?
The fuck?
You don't think you're wearing your bias on your sleeve with this conversation? Look, I know you love Daddy Bush. Why don't you tell me how to contextualize his take that the Ukraine isn't a proxy war, rather than arguing with me about how acidic I am. He's a shit.
Because being toxic is just so bad. You can't be toxic now. That's not good. I mean, I really hate the whole, like, oh, you're being acidic or toxic type of argument and shit. It's so stupid. It's like, I mean, there is, a case when it comes to being like, hey, you don't want to just, like, go off on someone right off the bat and shit. You want to actually, especially if you want to have a conversation with someone, you'll want to probably be long to try to get, to the bottom of the whole idea and shit.
It's the Bosch version of toxic.
You don't do that just being like, fuck you, you're an idiot, right off the bat.
human beings don't have a number of masks that they use in
Definitely not.
situations. Definitely. Where you're one thing all the way through.
Would you have a job and just call someone and send it to their face at the register?
No.
Are you that kind of person?
If you are, you're unemployed.
No shit. What the hell? Yeah, seriously. Like, I mean, yeah, whoever is like in Paul's chat, it's just like, no, you like when you don't have just like a literal one face the entire time. Like, yeah, you're gonna have different faces. Like, I definitely have a different face when I'm at work. Like, I'm a little bit, you know, like I, you know, put on at least a veneer of being more cheer, or at least, you know, more friendly towards people. Not that I ain't friendly, but it's just like, you know, I put on more of a, you know, customer service veneer of that, in a sense, in comparison to just like, you know, just me. Because just being me isn't necessarily, you know, 100% going to fly with every single customer, so I have, you know, to change and adapt with that, of course, to whoever I'm working with, customer or not. I mean, same thing with, you know, just talking with other people or interacting with other people. It's just like, what? It's like, yeah, you're going to have like a little bit of a different face because you don't know 100% how they're going to, you know, view you, so it's like, what?
Too much misinformation is too much shit going on in our lives. What goes on over there is what goes on over there to most people. There's just no.
I guarantee you 80%.
That's true. I mean, I was having a talk about the whole Russia Ukraine thing yesterday with my workers, my co-workers,
Couldn't identify most countries on that.
and most of them were just like, well, not just like all of them were just vehemently against this whole idea about the conflict in Russia and Ukraine and getting involved in it. Because, especially for the average, you know, common person, shit like that is, you know, not something that, you know, people are thinking about. Especially in America.
Literally dead in the ground, buried, rotting its corpse, or rotting its skull.
I mean, it's just like there's way too many other fucking issues, like in, you know, labor and our healthcare and infrastructure and many other things that, you know, need to be prioritized in comparison to whatever the fuck is going on in Europe. Unless it's related to these same exact issues.
Wiki, so he has better takes than Jeremy Corbyn and the Gravel Institute, yeah, for sure. And that's exactly what happened. I'm pretty sure I read that there was a really amazing comeback in the Ukrainian economy after they split from Russia.
Yeah, Wikipedia is like a nice little starting point. But you gotta actually like go further than that.
Funny how the only war America dragged its heels about joining, it's not the only war that America dragged its heels about joining, World War II, but it's actually, what you're saying here is actually an example of what I'm talking about. Americans used to be extraordinarily bearish on war. They did not want war. And if you were gonna, you better be able to prove that we gotta send our troops.
Yeah, so there was actually a point where, you know, we were very anti-war, and now we're just like super pro-war. We're gung ho for a lot of different wars nowadays.
That was the American attitude towards World War II. And it took Pearl Harbor to change that. Once we saw our soldiers dying and our planes and boats and military installations being bombed, that's all it took.
I mean, World War II was already going on by the time we got involved. Same thing with World War I. Careful, Zooks.
That was the neoconservative assertion, is that war is different now. And you can go back and listen to Donald Rumsfeld.
War is different. We have to do it in a different way now.
Bush,
Which I suppose is true, but there's a root, you know, to it all. War never changes.
Two nation states going at it.
It might adapt and change over time, but it never really changes.
Non-governmental organizations.
It just does so via technology.
Represent a new frontier in war.
And new tactics and strategies, but that's it.
War like we used to, where you look at one country on the map and say they're doing damage to us in the world, we have to intervene. Now you have to look at war like, which one of these countries is harboring cells for this
Harboring
non-governmental
cells.
organization?
and these other different terrorist cells, and blah 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 blah.
Expanded our theater of operation.
And now we just have different military bases where now we made, this is the kind of core root about the most biggest evil when it comes to the biggest threat to world peace. Like the United States has the most amount of military bases, in various different client states that they have. Between Japan, fucking Germany, are two different pretty big examples. Where we have a fuckload of military bases stationed in these places. And Japan can't even have their own standing army, just due to us and our occupation. Because we made it so they couldn't.
Well, no.
We never gave them the choice.
He should be. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that, but we'll see.
The Ukrainian war, getting involved in that is not going to boost his popularity. Especially with people I know. It'll just make it fucking worse. Instead of actually trying to, boost the general well-being of the average people, like the Build Back Better Act or PRO Act, they'd rather fucking, try to go to war and distract you away from those things. Go fucking figure.
Because those actions
Harm reduction, am I right?
require massive troop movements and embedded reporters and news coverage and pictures of the aftermath and all of that. We don't even get to hear about most of the drone strikes now. They've taken what would have been an open act of war that would have been a matter for discussion at every dinner table in America and turned it into a secret war that we only get to hear a little bit about here and there when they do something that they consider to be good, like killing a terrorist leader or something.
Well,
Which actually killed a bunch of children.
Their birthday party or whatever.
It's just like, hey, if we have to kill a bunch of children to take out one of those big bad terrorist guys, it's all good.
So the end, I'm an anti-war leftist, and I'm a member of a dead tribe. There used to be,
We're scattered, we're nomads now. Staunch, fervent anti-war leftists, where they're anti-war, period. That don't really exist no more.
The anti-war left was
Come here, baby.
absolute, unmovable beacon of leftism. And it now does not exist anymore. It just doesn't exist.
It's not much of a tribe as much as a nomadic group of people that just kind of scatter about.
Yep. Yep. People don't believe that, but it's absolutely true. There were, especially in the era that you're talking about, Operation Desert Storm through Operation, whatever, Iraqi Freedom, the 90s through the mid-2000s, there were tons and tons of people on the right who were against war and would show up to anti-war demonstrations. Absolutely.
That's true.
It's gone.
Very few conservatives are anti-war these days now either.
Because war has been
Hardly, if any.
changed.
I mean, I can maybe find a couple exceptions.
The more I went against warmongering.
Pretty much the exception to the rule, but not so much anymore.
No, I know. Now, if you don't toe the DNC line, you're some kind of because I don't think that America has any.
You're like some sort of crazy radical that's just, gone too far gone. You're a deranged lefty.
Territorial dispute.
You can't be reasoned with.
I'm a tanky. I'm somehow some pro-fucking Lenin, Stalin-loving fucking CCP fucking
CCP, dude. It's like, yep, you're a little too radical. You must love Mao and Stalin and all those crazy ones. Yep, totally. I really love that, when it comes to, some of the leftists in fighting, where it's just like, oh, you're a little too left for me, you must be tanky. It's like, what a nice little convenient little dismissal to rule off, just essentially other people that you generally, for the most part, agree with. That's definitely not tribalistic.
Military coup members abusing their population, exploiting their population to the nth degree. And we're actually supporting these countries. We're directly involved, directly allied with a lot of these countries. Saudi Arabia is one.
We support 70+% of the world's dictatorships. It's 73% or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like how it like. I mean, especially when we're trying to be like some moral arbiter in the world, but yet we support like literal fucking dictatorships and fascistic monarchies like Saudi Arabia. It's like, he thinks we got no room to talk. But thank you though.
Christians, anybody that isn't Islamic, anybody that isn't Muslim.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia. If you even if you are, if you especially leave the religion in Islam, in Saudi Arabia, you're essentially considered guilty for death, just outright.
People who are Islamic, you're right. If you're not the right kind of Islamic, you're not the right flavor.
If you're not our hardcore fascistic Wahhabist, way of thinking in Saudi Arabia, then you're fucked.
Outrage.
So better be obedient and be a hyper-suppressal individual.
Saudi Arabia and sanctions against Saudi Arabia. Hey, maybe we should do some limited military conflicts in Saudi Arabia. Maybe we should back the Saudi Arabian separatist groups. There's no talk of that because there's too much money being made.
Of course.
There's operations.
Not that, like, sending fucking... Not like, actually putting military aid to Saudi Arabia would actually help anyway. That would still make it worse. I mean, trying to fund Saudi separatist groups, might actually end up, in some ways making it worse, but considering what Saudi Arabia is, I mean, probably not.
That westernized democracy decided that it wanted to be an international player and take control of its own oil supplies. We brutally deposed their leader.
Put in the Shah.
Mossadegh and installed the Shah of Iran, a CIA operative. And now look what happened.
And also, we're definitely still doing shit like this today. Where the CIA is, doing like all sorts of different, attempts, to establish more stability for the general American imperial state. Especially in places like in South America, where they definitely are very well active. It's like, It's like curious me happens to be curious indeed. I mean, again, it's hence why, it's like the United States, pound for pound is, the biggest threat to world peace. It's like even if Russia is currently on the limelight of things. Because I find it, really cognitively dissonant, to just be like, oh, we're going to just kind of roll it out now, because there's, big, some big bad threats going on right now that aren't America. It's like, don't you think that's a nice convenient distraction considering the, like, figurative and literal, like, slow burning collapse of the United States? Like, you think that's actually, something that's going to benefit? Because most certainly not. It's quite the opposite.
Solid. And the construction on this thing is totally solid. Super thick leather. Grip here. That has never come up or frayed.
You BB. Good boy.
Fully intact.
Just a sweet little
The only thing
Doge.
I got to show that this thing has any age on it is the chips and stuff on the green finish on this metal. But these things are made like a brick. You can like beat somebody to death with this fucking thing. This is made in America by a company called...
It was a good Zukov. Come here, baby.
I think it's something in America. I don't know if everything.
Oh, come here, baby.
And it's like...
Oh, you lazy bastard.
No, nothing. These things, like I said...
Lazy bastard.
It's made to be dropped and abused and used.
Come here.
I've done... I haven't dropped it on the book. Completely dropped it on the body.
Lazy prick.
I imagine that if I did do that, I could just pop it back.
Couldn't use you to be somebody deaf. You're heavier than a brick. You're heavier than a damn brick.
The thing that's going out on it, honestly,
Just like lunge you at somebody and take him out.
This little 510
Big hunk.
probably clean it a little bit.
Big hunk of chunk.
It's got a little bit of gunk.
Are you hearing the speaker go Doge mode?
Loose and wonky in there.
Where you're just like, what was that noise?
I think I paid like, and you gotta understand that if you're gonna get one of these.
You good. You're good, baby.
Buy one of the cheap ones. I think this one's like
God, oh, goofball. Here.
Might be a little more. But I think I paid $75 on it. Flaming hot Cheetos, mac and cheese is a thing now, and I feel disgusted. Mr. Naughty Priest.
Flaming hot Cheetos, mac and cheese. That just.
What if you end up liking it, Mr. Naughty Priest? What if you end up liking it? What if you get it just to see how?
That honestly does sound pretty bomb, though. I'm not even gonna lie. That sounds like an epic stoner feast.
I tend to be a stodgy bastard too, Mr. Naughty Priest. I have not tried
Hot Cheeto flavored mac and cheese.
But
Dude.
I'm willing.
That just.
I'll admit. I agree.
I mean, yo, that just sounds good. I'm not even gonna lie, that sounds pretty good.
Upon reaction makes me despair.
I mean, I'd be down for that. That just sounds pretty bomb.
I allow for the fact that
If I ever see that in my store, I'm actually gonna grab it and try it. I'm willing to try it. I'm willing to experiment and see how it is.
Cheetos are being used as an ingredient in a lot of new cuisines. I love it, dude.
What the fuck, really? The stoners are rising up, dude. We're taking over the culinary world now, even now more than ever. We're normalizing stoner food, like Cheetos intertwined.
Super gamers, man. They don't get any of my game references. Well, they do, they get some of them.
Oh, God.
They don't get all my game references.
I thought Zukov was bad. Holy shit. The boofing.
I can't make a Skyrim joke with them. I can't be like, you know, I was going to be president of the United States, but then I took an arrow to the knee. If I said that, I don't think any of them would even get the meme.
Oh, they wouldn't get the name. Dude.
You know, I made an Elcor joke the other day.
When you have, like, you know, memes in the gamer world, but you're just not aware of them, it's honestly a sad state of affairs.
Sad.
At least, you know, for, like, various different ones, like the Elder Scrolls.
My Elcor impersonation. I wonder if either of them has even tried playing Mass Effect.
That's a pretty good Elcor. I mean, I haven't even played Mass Effect and I know that meme. Because Mass Effect is kind of a meme of the game, especially Andromeda. Zukov is looking around wondering where all this boofing's coming from.
I think there's a couple of spin-offs I haven't played, but every main Elder Scrolls game from Arena, Daggerfall, Morrowind,
Zukov, are you confused by all the boofing?
Skyrim. I played Morrowind. So yeah, I know some Elder Scrolls lore. Starfield, I don't know either. Don't crash it, bro.
Man, you're just looking around wondering what the fuck.
You saw your schematic.
You're a little nut.
Yeah. Yeah, I played Arena.
You're a little nut, Zukov.
I never beat Arena. Arena was a really hard game.
Look at you.
Just do another video sometime about Elder Scrolls. Can't really do it. The guys like have no frame of reference. I thought ever
Zukov,
Skyrim or something.
look at you. You're ridiculous.
Turns out,
I feel like everyone has to at least play one Elder Scrolls game or another. Whether it's Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, I mean, any of them, honestly.
I think most people do.
I mean, because, like, there's a lot of memes, you know, to be had, especially for games like Oblivion and shit. I mean, Oblivion is, like, ridiculously meme material. Just utter ridiculous meme material. I mean, Skyrim is too, especially. Like, those two games, especially, are just full-on meme material. And it's just amazing.
Crazy ahead of its time.
Right, it's about 3 to 7. Let's go to war here pretty soon now. All that good fun shit. And Zukov, do you mind if you're staring? You're just giving me a cute little look. Oh my goodness, you sweet thing. You sweet little baby. Can you even be seen? Yeah, barely. His little head's peeking over. Oh, you sweet thing. You're just a sweet baby. You're just staring at me like that. Oh my goodness. You just a good boy. Yeah. You a good boy. Yeah. I'll head off to work here and all that fun shit, so. Just out, be around for that good old evening as I